$60, I've done it 3 times. You know,
Yeah.
but would you argue that execution is probably the most imperative thing? If you look at all these guys like Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, all your top leaders, they all predicate, i.e. assert that idea of having to execute. Is that what makes you successful? Because when I look at you, I look at a lot of other people's, millennials primarily, and what you're starting to see is a lot of excuses. And I'm not trying to be rude, but a lot of the time they're like, well, I can't find this job. And I was on a video the other day, and it's like, well, you can't find that job. Well, what exactly are you going to do? And that's where we start. It's like, how are you going to frame this? What exactly are you going to do to push you forward? So would you argue that it's execution? You have to be able to execute, i.e. strategize, which will in fact lead to your success. Is that what makes you successful?
100%. Execution, just doing it, is what's going to get you to the next level, and it's getting past that fear. Like, I understand, and there's a lot of people get anxiety now. I've had it, you know, like it's understandable. Like, you get nervous in front of an interview. Before we started this, I was a bit nervous, understandably, right? And you get that from everything you do.
Just kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
I'm human. I'm human. And everyone else is too. So you're gonna be nervous when you're doing things, or before you, if you have a business idea, let's say, before you launch it, you're gonna be nervous. You're gonna be like, what if this doesn't work? You're gonna have those doubts, but you just push through them. And you gotta think in the way that for an example, the last house I bought, I had to, because I work off commission, the banks don't use my income and whatnot, so I had to wait a little bit, but I partnered with someone to buy the last house I bought. So with my partner, I convinced him that if we lose money on this house, when we're rich in 10 years, we're gonna use that as a story and laugh about it.
Exactly.
So I was like, if we fail on this, which the chances are really slim investing in real estate if you do it the correct way, I was like, if we do fail, we're gonna look back, like in 10 years, we know we're gonna be rich, that's our goal. In 10 years, we're gonna look back and tell people the story, like, oh, when we were young, 23 years old, we bought a house and we lost a ton of money on it, ha ha ha, you know, like we learned a huge lesson from that. And I think that's one of the best lessons you can make is by failing, and that's what everyone always tells you. So there's just different scales of failing, so you can start businesses that have like little to no initiation costs or whatnot, and the risks are way lower, so just go for it.
That's it. No, there you go. That's the motivational thing. A lot of people are like, well, what do I got to do? They're trying to think of all these recipes and things you can do. And I'm of the same belief as Tristan. It's like, just put yourself out there, come out swinging. I like to say that everyone that watches my stuff, it's like, come on out swinging. I think that's one of the most important things Tristan just hit on is the factor that how do you manage risk? And a lot of people that you see are highly successful. They don't really say it as risk. It's like, well, it's very calculated. So it's one of those things, I think, just getting over that barrier and saying, okay, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to create it. So I want to touch base on this then, if we're going to transition in. Take, for instance, the millennial generation. I always like to pick on millennials, being that I'm one of them, right? What do you find is one of the biggest problems with our millennial generation? And not taking a critique, but just something that being that we're in this market, we are those type of people. What do you think is the biggest problem, and how do you think we can battle through that problem? That's a deep question, but I mean, I think we can unpack it. I think it's a great question.
Okay, that one I might have to think about a little bit.
Think about that.
But what I'm seeing a lot is, like we just said though, is basically just going for it, doing it. Focus, I think, is really tough right now because of all the social media. Like even myself, sometimes I'm on my computer and then because I'm in real estate, right? I gotta always be on my phone.
Always,
so
yeah.
I'll get I'll go on Facebook to start doing a Facebook ad or something, and then I end up on my timeline, and like 2 minutes later, I'm like, holy jeez, like I've just looked at 20 Facebook posts,
Yeah.
like, watched a video.
Next thing you know, he's buying something. Next thing you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. So like, you get stuck, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, where does it end? Then you go like, okay, I gotta check Instagram now or whatever, like post another picture. So it's hard to stay focused with all that stuff going on. So what I've started to try to do is put my phone in sleep mode for like 30 minutes at a time. So maybe I won't be able to answer that phone call then, but I'll just get them back later.
Exactly, yeah.
But it really helps you focus and get a lot of things done at once without being distracted. But that's tough. Like even walking around, like I rarely ever walk around without having my phone out just because there's always something to look at. But sometimes you just got to be in that mindful state, and actually that's one of the books I'm reading right now.
Okay.
On mindfulness, because it's one of my problems.
That's one of the most important
Yeah.
things. Yeah, so I would argue actually probably the same thing, that it's a distraction issue. It's like, how can we stay focused on something? In my whole life, same idea as you. It's like, people always tell me, you gotta get focused, you have to get specific. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can stare at this desk for 5 minutes, and it's like, hey, no, that's not focused. It means, having something done at the right time, getting specific on it, and heading forward with clarity. I think that's one of the most important things.
Agreed.
What do you think? So if I was a young millennial out there, let's say, okay, since I'm taking a hit at our generation in a positive way, but if I was a young millennial, and I didn't know what to do coming out of university. What would be some of the advice you'd give? Just an idea. Is that too hard? Like, is that a tough one?
Coming out of university, or
Yeah, coming out of university, you don't know what you want to do. That's
like
a
job.
Yeah, for looking for a job.
Yeah, actually, I had one of my friends. He asked me to talk to his little brother about this because he's looking for a job. And what I was told by my parents when I was looking for a job when I think I was 15, and they told me to apply everywhere, so McDonald's and all that stuff. And at first, I thought like I was a little bit above that, but I guess a lot of people do think like that.
Yeah, it's wrong.
But then I realized like it's a job. You know, even at working at McDonald's, you learn so many of the ways that they train their employees. They're an established brand and they know how to do business, right? Because they've been in business for so long. So I looked at it as a learning opportunity. But also that when I was applying for the jobs, my parents kept telling me like, call them back, annoy them. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be that annoying guy that's looking for a job. But then I put myself in the shoes of the employer and owning a business, you kind of understand this. You're like, if you have 3 resumes in front of you and 2 of them dropped off the resume, they talked to you a little bit, and then the third guy, maybe he has a little bit less education, but he's calling you every 3 days saying, oh, did you look at my resume yet? Are you going to hire me? Do you have a spot left still? Like, I'm obviously going to hire this guy. Like, he's motivated. That guy wants to work.
Absolutely.
So if you look at yourself from the other shoes of the employer, they want that. It's not annoying them. It's actually making them want to hire you.
It's showing you're hungry.
I think that's, being hungry, going for it, the hustle, that's what it is.
It's the hustle. It's all about that hustle game in today's generation, I guess you can say. Yeah, I find that's one of the most important things. It's a market I want to tap into, and you hit it right on the nail. It's like getting that hunger, showing that initiative, taking the extra step. It's the same thing. I use this analogy so many times because I've seen it. I lived it. I was going to go to law school. Everyone had the same resume. We all had an 80% in school. We all had the similar score on the LSAT. We all were part of the same law groups. So what's going to happen when you're flipping that resume in? They're going to look, okay, I've seen this kid, I've seen this. You need that distinguishing factor. And in terms, sometimes you might not have a very good distinguishing factor, but it might be your work ethic. It might be like they always say, or hard work trumps talent. I think that's when it comes into play when it comes to that kind of stuff like that. So transitioning here, or go ahead.
I agree. That's what I was saying.
No, absolutely. I find that, like, especially with our generation, I think a lot of people are looking at the wrong lens. They're trying to say that, we're in one of the craziest times in human history. It's so difficult, which it is. I agree. There's a lot of noise out there. A lot of jobs are getting cut. But on the contrary to that, I think we live in one of the greatest times in human history.
A lot of jobs are getting made.
That's what I mean, exactly.
People need to fix that technology. People need to create that technology that's stealing the jobs. But I think it's all evening itself out.
Exactly. It's that market that's changing. Anticipate where the market's going to go. And I think that's another thing with us. I know we're young and we're coming out there, but one of the things I've always admired in you, Tristan, was the fact that you're not scared to put yourself out there. I know we've known each other for a few years, but that's the thing. We teamed up at one point because you were able to push through things. People are sitting there like, oh, Tristan's promoting this, he's doing this. But at the end of the day, you're living what you want. You're doing what you want to do. You're living that dream. And a lot of people are showing up to their 9-to-5 job, and nothing against them. But at the end of the day, I always say, I know you need a paycheck. You need to pay bills. But if you're just showing up to that job and it's sucking the life right out of you, I think it's time maybe to make a change, figure out how you can start making money on the side or doing something different to perpetuate you.
Yeah, like a way around that is if you have a business idea, just work on it 1 hour a night, maybe 2 hours a night. Because what else are you probably doing? Like a lot of like
Instagram.
Netflix now? Yeah, Instagram. Like Netflix. You watch one episode, you're hooked, right? We all do it, obviously, but like if you just like spend a little time doing what you're passionate about, and make sure you're passionate about it if you're starting a business or something that you're enjoying to do, an hour a night, or talk to people that might be interested, or like I love talking to anyone that has a business, that started a business. Like I meet with a lot of small businesses, invested in one, so that's like my passion. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm never gonna retire. That's what I'm gonna do until I die. I just want to invest in small businesses and help them grow because that's just what I love to do.
No, absolutely. Okay, so crossing over here to include this interview, because I mean we've got a lot of energy, a lot of facts, so we're hitting a lot on millennials. Sorry guys for any of the millennials out there, but where do you see yourself going in? Like, what can we expect from Tristan Ritchie? You got the social media marketing agency. You're an investor, a young investor. You have properties already. You're a real estate agent. What can we expect next from you? Is there going to be an app coming out? Maybe. Hey, a book. Hey, I've been pumping to get a book out. Like, what can we see next from you, Tristan?
Started writing it, but I've been too busy.
That's all right.
But eventually it'll come out there on real estate investing. I want to teach people how to invest in real estate. I believe it's one of the best investments you can make in general.
Sure.
I made a video on it, how comparing it to like mutual funds or whatnot, and there is a little bit more risk, and you have to deal with tenants, so that's a little bit of work. But I believe it's a huge investment. But in terms of what I'm doing in the future, I don't really know. I do know that real estate being a sales rep with Caldwell Banker, Charles Marsh, and Team Curtis is like my main focus. That's where I spend most of my time. And then when I have spare time, that's when I work on my side ideas. But I did tell, when I was 19, I told my parents, well, I told everyone, my friends, my parents, that by the time I'm 30, I'm going to have bought one house a year. So I'm back one right now. I'm only at two, but it's on its way. And once they can start counting my income at the bank.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to take some time. So
Yeah.
no, that's awesome. So you're going to see. I'm assuming we're going to see a lot of different things. Obviously,
I'm hoping, yeah.
You're hoping, yeah. Do you feel like I find that this was a mentality? One of my friends had always said, he's like, you know, the people that are specified obviously get paid more than the generalist. Are you that type of person that wants to put your eggs in 4 different baskets, or do you like to stay focused, which is real estate, but then kind of bounce around a little bit? Is that how you roll? Is that how you work?
Yeah, in a way. So I've heard that too. Actually, just recently, someone was telling me about that. And I do agree in certain areas, but real estate is such a passive income that like investing in real estate, I should say. So rental properties is such a passive income. You don't need to spend a lot of time on them, especially when you hit your threshold and you get property managers to manage all of them for you. Then it takes like none of your time. But real estate as a agent is where I'm going to spend most of my time. Like I was saying, I really enjoy it. I love helping people, and I love explaining the process. You know, just dealing with people. That's like my favorite right now. So I'll be doing that. But investing, being an angel investor, that's my probably ultimate goal once I have the capital for it.
No, for sure. In a couple of years, I mean, you're 23. Like I always say, how many millionaires you know at 23? Like, really? Can I walk up to someone that I know is 20? I wish. I'm just saying in general, right? Like, how many do you know that you can walk up, shake their hand, like, that's not an artist of some sort?
None,
Exactly. So one last thing I want to conclude with. I think this is the most important. You know, I've been waiting to brew this question. How do you feel about the subject of sales? Seriously, that's an important one in my life, obviously. I'm not here to sell people.
Why did you ask that?
I want to ask that because as a real estate agent, you have to sell yourself to society. Sell yourself in terms of this is what I'm going to do in the market. This is why I'm better than this person in the sense. How do you feel about the subject of sales? A lot of people have kind of a tainted reputation towards it. When I'm all for it, I'm here to say you got to leverage sales. If you're not leveraging it, then that's when you're going to get swiped over. If you can't sell yourself to a company, to a school, to say this is why I'm more qualified or better, that's where you see a lot of failure. People aren't tapping into that resource. So digress on that for me.
So I'll tell you exactly. So that was one of my things I was a little bit nervous about getting into business as a sales rep. So I'm not the type to push anything on anyone. When I go into a store, I don't like when people push things on me. What I try to offer is, and I learned this from Dave, is a great example of this, is you have to give content. You have to give people information and educate them. If you educate them enough, they'll see you as an expert in that field, and then they will want to use you because they can relate, and because you're giving them information and not pushing them to buy anything, then that's how you really build a good relationship with them. So that's my goal. I'm not in the sales aspect of real estate. I'm in the relationship making aspect of it. So I want to get to know people and help them out as a friend, basically, instead of more as a sales rep. So what I'm doing is I'm making videos that for free. Like I'm not charging anything for them. Like not like a call those webinar and videos that I'm trying to just educate people in the process, because if you're a first time home buyer especially, which we got on Thursday at 6 o'clock I believe at NorCal, we're doing a first time home buyer seminar.
I've seen that
there for anyone that might be first time home buyer or looking to buy soon. So we're answering just a bunch of questions. So being a first time home buyer, it can be scary. Like even after you buy the house for your first time, you're gonna have questions in your head, being like, oh, did I make the right decision? What's going to go wrong? Like, will I have to change my route? You know, it's never a for sure thing with anything you do. So you're always going to have questions, and that's what we're just here to do, is try and answer those questions.
For sure. No, I think that's the most important too, is because that's all business is relationships. Companies have relationships. They make deals together through relationships, and that's where sales comes in. If you're not selling, the Cardone, it's a little bit too extreme, I think, for that, but he always says if you're not selling, you're not surviving, sort of deal. But that's the most important thing. Without sales in a company, it's gonna sink. What boosts revenue? What boosts those margins? It all comes back to sales. It's just not about being greasy and trying to sell somebody. And I see somebody, I never want them to think, oh yeah, you're a greasy salesman, you're too jacked up. I want to go up there and say, hey, I can help you, and say, it's this. I'm gonna have some value. I've done my work. I've done this, and maybe this is good for you. If you don't like it, I'll ask 4 more times. I'm just kidding, guys. But yeah, I'll ask 4 more times and then go from there. But I think sales is probably one of the most important it's one of the most imperative things in our society. if you're not able to sell, it's going to really differentiate how you're going to do business. So that's why you have these companies. They could sell their ideas to people that can take them and build them, right? So
I'd rather use explain your value than sell.
sell. I use the term.
But no, it's true. It is basically
Yeah.
selling.
Sell.
But if you can
Yeah.
explain your value, explain your content, then and people can relate to it, then you're making a sale, which is helping them out.